the Hamptons Observatory for allowing us to partner with them for this event. And without further ado, take it away, William Taylor.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's very exciting to be here today while we're waiting for the news from Mars. It should be around 3:55 that we find out whether the Mars rover Perseverance has successfully landed or not, and we're all praying for the best. I have 4 big acknowledgements to make today. So one is, of course, to the East Hampton Library for hosting this event with us and making it possible for us all to gather and watch this event together. Another acknowledgement, of course, is Hampton's Observatory, which is the organization I work for, and it is a group that furthers education and astronomy and enthusiasm about astronomy, and it lets us all know when these wonderful events are going to happen in space and on Earth to see. I also have to acknowledge Canio's books, which at the very last minute came through and provided a place and a hosting for us so we can carry this off today. Because of the snow, the internet is down at my house, but they came through and they helped us out. And also like to thank Bild newspaper, which is writing a report about this for the German and Austrian audiences. So with that all said, I'll just say a few words about this mission because we're all here basically just to watch as the Mars rover lands. So I won't take very much time with this because we're all very interested in the main event. So the Mars rover is the first rover since 2012 to attempt to land on the surface of Mars. It's a very difficult thing because, well, unfortunately, out of the many missions that have been sent to Mars, not all of them have succeeded. So we're all praying for the best today. But here's what is going to be attempted to happen. This machine that you see here is going to descend with rockets to the surface of Mars. And it is going to let down a cable at the very last minute to let this rover successfully, we hope, touch on the surface very safely and softly. We know a little bit about Mars, just from what we can see from Earth. Here's a photo by Damien Peach through a telescope in Chile. This area, this big black triangle is called Syrtis Major. It's one of the really easy things to see through a telescope if you are an amateur observer of Mars. And the rover is going to land right here on the right side of it, on the eastern side of Syrtis Major. Because Mars doesn't have continents like Earth, oceans and continents, it helps us make sense of geography on Earth. It helps to go beyond just the images of Mars and to use the topography of Mars, the height of the Martian surface. So here's a false color picture of Mars where blue is the low areas, red are the highland areas. And you can see that the north part of Mars is really, really low compared to the southern part of Mars. Here's a map of the whole planet. And nowadays, what geologists think is that in ancient times, billions of years ago, billions with the B, there was an ocean on the whole northern part of Mars. And that ocean persisted for a long time, possibly. And it was a possible habitat for life. Now, with this mission, we're going to be landing right on the edge of that ancient ocean in a place that's called Jezero Crater. Jezero, or Jezero, is a Slavic word that means lake in many languages. So it's appropriate because this is an ancient lake. This big circle here was fed by 2 rivers, one on the left, one on the right. The Mars rover today is going to try to land on this river right here, the Jezero River Delta. This is a really difficult place to land in. Obviously, if you look at the terrain, it's very, very choppy. There's lots of cliffs and obstacles and dangers, but it's scientifically very interesting because this delta shows that water flowed here for a long, long time, and it gave a possible habitat for life. So here you can see the possible landing site where we hope that the rover will land and the possible path it will travel over the next couple of years as it explores this area. It explores through different layers of geological history of Mars. If you compare this river delta to this, it's called the Selenga River in Russia or Mongolia, I forget which one. It's very, very similar in appearance because Mars and Earth were once very, very similar in their basic geology. There was a thicker atmosphere on Mars. There was a lot warmer on Mars. There's liquid water on Mars. Here's an artist's illustration of what that watery lake must have looked like billions of years ago. And that gives rise to the question that there might have been life on Mars. So this rover is going to be looking for fossils, to put it bluntly, or just possible other chemical signs that life has existed in the past. Here's some obvious fossils from Earth. So this is what would be really, like here, for instance, is an ammonite, a very classic kind of fossil from hundreds of millions of years ago. It would be wonderful if we could find fossils like this on Mars. However, it's not very likely just because we haven't seen any so far. And this kind of life, the complex life, like you and me and ammonites and trilobites and so forth, didn't arise until very late in the history of Earth when Mars had already dried up. Here's what we might hope to find instead. These are called stromatolites, and these are bacteria that grew into great big mats and over time turn into stone. Here's an example. These kinds of animals, they're bacteria and algae. They live today in parts of Australia. And it's possible that something like this existed on Mars billions of years ago. We have no idea. But that is the kind of thing that the Mars rover Perseverance is going to be looking for. So the main event today is just to hope that we land safely. There's years of science ahead of us if this works out. But we have to get through what's called the 7 minutes of terror, which is when the robot first descends through the Martian atmosphere and then lands, and then we have to wait for the signal to travel all the way from Mars to Earth, which will take several minutes. So if you guys are willing and patient and want to stick with me for the next hour, we'll have a very exciting show to watch, and you can always share thoughts in chat. And then afterwards, if you guys want to have any more questions, or if your questions are out, just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Okay, at the moment, what we'll do is we will shift back to the countdown. But before we do so, we do have a question. We have somebody asks, how is that rover being powered over the course of the years?
That's a great question. It's very difficult, of course, to get power on Mars because the other previous rovers used solar power. Spirit and Opportunity use solar power, which is great and available on Mars, but at times there are huge dust storms that sometimes come along and block off the sun for months on end. This rover is using a very unlikely source of power for you and me. It's using plutonium. So it has a chunk of plutonium on board that gives off heat, which can be turned into electricity and generates about 100 watts of power. And so as long as that radioactivity lasts, it will have power for a long time.
We have another one. How will the samples get returned to Earth?
That's a great question. We don't know yet. What this rover is going to be doing is going to be collecting samples of rocks and soil, gathering them in a safe space that can be found later. And it's hoped that sometime in the next decade, another mission will be launched to Mars that will gather that material, that will scoop it up somehow or another and rocket it back to Earth. We don't know exactly all the details of that because it hasn't been fully worked out, but this is the first part in a multi-stage effort to bring back samples to Earth. If you think about it, studying rocks on Mars with a rover on Mars, you can learn a lot, but it's only a millionth of what you can learn if you actually could get those samples to Earth to look at them more closely in laboratories here.
Okay. What we will do is we'll shift over. So if you want to put it back on screen share, Hunter, that would be wonderful. And then we will commence with watching the countdown. We do have another question, or a couple of questions. Does NASA have an expectation for how long the Perseverance rover will operate? And then they state, I remember that an older Mars rover lasted way longer than expected.
Yeah, I know that all the Mars rovers NASA has launched in the past 20 years or so lasted much longer than expected. Spirit and Opportunity both lasted over a decade. The current occupant of Mars, which is Curiosity rover, has been there since 2012 and is going strong. One problem that Curiosity has had is that its wheels became corroded over time. It's much more difficult to drive around on Mars than people thought. So Perseverance has better wheels. So you can never be sure. A lot of things could go wrong, but based on the track record NASA has had over the past 20 years, it should last a long time.
Excellent. Let's see. We have. Is this only a United States mission?
Well, this is primarily a United States mission run by NASA, but there is always cooperation with different countries when these kinds of events happen. a really basic one is that to get the signals from Mars, we have radio telescopes all around the world in Australia and as well as the United States gather those signals so we can hear them. And of course, there are scientists from all over the world who work for NASA and collaborate. There's also going to be just to let people know, there's also going to be another rover landing on Mars later this year, which is the first rover ever launched by China. So that'll be exciting to see how that goes. We'll hope for the best of that as well. It's obviously a very difficult thing. A lot of other countries have tried to land rovers or probes on Mars and not succeeded, but the bigger the club gets, the better it is for everyone. There's also a European probe, which should be launched in about 2 years to land on Mars.
Let's see. We have a question. Are stromatolites closely related to coral?
I don't think that they're directly related to coral very closely because they're actually a lot simpler than coral. Coral is a kind of complex organism that lives in colonies, whereas stromatolites are basically bacteria or algae, and they grow in great big mats, and then the mats get bigger and bigger and bigger as they try to reach towards the sunlight. So this is one of the earliest kinds of life that we know existed on Earth. It's in the oldest fossils we have on Earth. And if you think about it, it's a kind of a film or plaque that kind of grows over time. So it's really kind of primitive life. So that's just a possibility of what might exist on Mars. We obviously have no idea. We don't know if there's ever been able to on Mars at all.
Okay. We have another question. What's technically the monetary cost of a mission of this caliber?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I think it was around $2 billion with a B dollars, which is a lot, of course. But compared to a lot of other things that go on the government, it's. I think I read that the operating costs of the rover this year will be similar to the amount that the Defense Department spends on golf courses, maintaining golf courses. So it's obviously an expensive and difficult thing, but it's well, we hope the scientific results for us.
Okay. So what we could do at the moment, if you want to close your screen share, what we'll do is Hunter will switch back. There we go. And
I think that's what we all want to wait for.
And he's queuing up the audio for us, so we could hear the countdown.
EDL up. Probably the last time if you feel the need to do a battery change to do that before we go into quiet mode. Also, unless we have something updated we want to show in the next couple of minutes, we're about to turn over our WebEx screen to telecom for tones. At that point, I'm happy to get updates in chat in our WebEx on EDL ops, but I'd prefer to not have any more call-outs over the net unless you see something you do not expect.
OL, this is TAP 3. I have the runout solution for OD135, distance to target, 392 meters.
Copy. Feel free to share if you'd like. To OL1 voice check.
Are you 5 by OL1?
Copy. Looks good. Thank you. TAP 3.
We have a question. Are we getting any meteorological info? And if so, can they alter the landing attempt schedule if they see a dust storm in the way?
Yes, we do have meteorological info
At this time,
coming
M20
from
EDL
other
on.
probes that are
Time,
currently on
we'll go
Mars,
quiet on
or orbiting
WebEx
Mars.
until we start our
Oh.
callouts during EDL telemetry.
And there's also a United Arab Emirates probe that just arrived at Mars to get meteorological info.
Phase 2 flight.
Go flight.
At this time, let's continue our briefing for the rest of EDL.
Sure. So after coming out of EDL start, that's our last real reinforcement of the state that the vehicle was in throughout much of cruise and EDL approach. And it's our precursor to making many more radical changes to the state of the vehicle. Matt Wallace said it well the other day. EDL is kind of like a controlled disassembly of the vehicle. As we go through, we need to get rid of the things we don't need anymore and get ready to put our wheels on the ground. So one of the final things that we're doing here is ensuring that our ACS knowledge is top-notch. We depend on ACS to pass an estimate of the vehicle's attitude and rate of change to EDL, and that's our starting point for propagating down to the ground. When we come up in the EDL prep anchor is when we'll take the last state from ACS, and we'll be propagating from that point to the ground until we get more knowledge from the radar once we turn it on. I can give a high-level overview of some of the events that are going to transpire throughout EDL. Of course, commentary will be detailing this as we go through, and you'll hear a lot of members of the EDL team calling out specific events as they occur and indicators as we see them. But to give everyone an idea of what we're going to see, we will first start shortly here. We'll get news that the vehicle has separated the cruise stage since we no longer need that. We need to prepare for entry into the atmosphere. After that, we will indeed start the entry process. At this point, we're depending on the heat shield to both protect the spacecraft and help slow us down. We'll be gathering data from our Medley sensors, and we'll be decelerating rapidly at that point. As we make our way through the atmosphere, we'll be firing our DRCS thrusters that poke out the back of the back shell, and this will allow us to steer our trajectory as we make our way through the atmosphere. This is one of the things that allowed MSL, the Curiosity rover, to land where it did. And we're depending on the same type of entry guidance this time around to help get us very close to our target. make our way through entry, finish our guided entry profile, we'll do a maneuver called heading alignment, where we point toward the target and get ready to deploy the parachute. But before we deploy the parachute, we need to get rid of a set of balance masses that have been giving us a center of gravity, or CG offset, throughout the guided entry phase. So these are called the entry balance masses. We also call this maneuver SUFR, S-U-F-R, or straighten up and fly right. So we'll go ahead and eject those masses when we get a trigger from the GNC system telling us that we're at the appropriate range to the target to do so. As soon as we deploy those, we will no longer have a CG offset, and we'll be ready to deploy the parachute 17 seconds later. I'm going to hold here for EDL prep as we're about to start that anchor.
Copy, phase 2. And activity, please call that out when it's ready.
Copy, flight.
All stations at this point, let's limit our traffic on the net to critical issues only.
Flight EDLCOM.
Go EDLCOM.
As per step 205 in the OCP, we can confirm that MRO has started their first flu.
Copy, EDLCOM.
EDL prep anchor has begun. We have stopped our AMAN, started the raw DP for EDL, idled the nav filter and IVP, and we are now propagating via the DIMU. We've powered on our UHF, it's not yet transmitting, and the anchor has complete. We expect our next anchor to start in 2 minutes.
Copy, activity.
Phase 2 taking a battery change. Phase 2 back on that.
The HRS vent anchor has begun. Here we are reinforcing the BCB discharge and charge states. We are powering on the pyro firing cards.
Flight, we are about 14 minutes from entry interface. The vehicle is currently preparing the heat rejection system that has kept the thermal system cool inside the air shell for about the last 6 months. This will allow the spacecraft to more easily cut the line in upcoming cruise stage separation, which is under 4 minutes now.
We have now enabled the rover pyro bus. We are powering off the cruise stage devices.
The vehicle is preparing for the upcoming cruise stage separation in about 3 minutes, 15 seconds by powering off all the devices on the cruise stage in order that they can be safe once the cruise stage is jettisoned.
We are firing our first pyros to vent the HRS liquid and gas. The HRS vent anchor is complete. We will see the next anchor in approximately 3 minutes.
We are currently 12.5 minutes from entry interface. We are coming upon cruise stage separation in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. We're about 1.5 minutes from cruise stage separation, about 11 minutes, 20 seconds from entry interface.
We are switching to the MFSK tones. Telemetry will have stopped.
Telecom is confirming that the spacecraft has switched to broadcasting tones. These tones are received directly from Perseverance, but have very limited information content. We won't receive real-time information until about 9-10 minutes from now, once the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter starts relaying information from Perseverance. We are under 1 minute from cruise stage separation, about 10.5 minutes from entry interface.
We are seeing the heartbeat tones.
We are continuing to receive tones from Perseverance, standing by for cruise stage separation.
RCS priming.
Cruise stage sep.
We have indication that cruise stage separation has been confirmed by the spacecraft. In about 1 minute, Perseverance's landing software will wake up and begin the final preparations for entry. The first action it will do is to fire warm-up pulses with its entry thrusters. These pulses ensure that the spacecraft gets the thrust that it wants during entry interface. We're about 9 minutes from entry interface.
I have confirmation that we got shadowed by the cruise stage as it passed through our beam to the Earth.
Telecom indicated actually that we could see a signal that the cruise stage went between the Perseverance entry capsule and Earth. So we saw a little blip, the data stream indicating cruise stage separation. We have confirmation that the vehicle has started warming up those entry thrusters. Warm-up pulses have begun.
Spin down.
At this point, the spacecraft is trying to stop its spin from the cruise 2 revolutions per minute down to 0, and then will turn to its desired orientation from entry. It will separate the 2 balance masses that has kept it balanced during all of cruise. This will allow the entry capsule to have lift when it enters the atmosphere. We have confirmation that the spacecraft has turned to the desired entry attitude. We are about 7.5 minutes from entry interface.
MRO reports carrier lock. MRO. The DTE from Radio Science from Green Bank reports carrier lock. Do you see the carrier on the downlink?
Flight level 1.
We are continuing to wait for entry interface. We're about 6 minutes and 45 seconds from entry interface. We have confirmation from Greenback that they are receiving direct-to-Earth telemetry via that path. The spacecraft Perseverance is currently transmitting heartbeat tones. These tones indicate that Perseverance is operating normally and has nothing significant to report. This is as expected. We're currently just over 6 minutes from entry interface. We're just under, we're about 5.5 minutes from entry interface. We're still receiving heartbeat tones. We expect to continue receiving heartbeat tones until about 5 minutes after entry. At that time, Perseverance will be no longer in view of our antennas here on Earth. About 90 seconds prior to entry, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter should begin receiving telemetry from Perseverance and streaming it to Earth in near real time. There are a few expected short outages such as when we have a plasma blackout or when we enter the peak heating phase, aside from these outages caused by the plasma blackout, antenna switching, or high dynamic events, spacecraft events, we should have telemetry until about 90 seconds after landing. A plasma blackout is when the signal from Perseverance isn't strong enough to make it through the superheated, super fast air flowing around the spacecraft all the way down to Earth. Once the temperature drops below that peak heating, we do reacquire the signal from Perseverance. We are currently about 4.5 minutes from entry interface. Perseverance continues to report heartbeat tones, indicating everything is nominal.
MRO reports the electro-radio is powered on, ready to receive signals from the lander.
Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has reported that it's ready to receive the signals from Perseverance. It should be in a few minutes here. We're just
Flight Local 1
from entry interface. Around this time, a second spacecraft, MAVEN, should begin picking up telemetry from Perseverance and will continue to record that telemetry until several minutes post-landing. We won't get that data for several hours after landing as it's being recorded and then will be forwarded to Earth later. We are continuing to receive heartbeat tones, indicating that everything is nominal. We're currently at about 3 minutes until entry interface. We are 2 minutes from entry interface. Perseverance is to transmit heartbeat tones, indicating everything is nominal. We're just under 2 minutes from entry interface. As it gets closer to Mars, Perseverance is actually being pulled in by gravity and accelerating. By the time Perseverance reaches entry interface point, she should be going just under 5.4 kilometers per second. We're at about 90 seconds from entry interface and standing by for Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to pick up the telemetry. We are 1 minute from entry interface.
MRO is in receive mode.
We have confirmation that the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is now relaying data from Perseverance. We're about 30 seconds from entry interface. Perseverance is going about 5.2 kilometers per second and is about 190 kilometers altitude above the surface of Mars.
Confirm your UHF data flow.
About seconds from entry
MTLW
interface.
on.
5.3 kilometers per second at an altitude of about 150 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
Entry.
We have confirmation of entry interface. Perseverance is currently going 5.3 kilometers per second at an altitude of about 120 kilometers from the surface of Mars. The spacecraft is now waiting until it begins feeling the atmosphere of Mars to slow it down. Once there is enough atmosphere, it will start controlling its path to the landing target.
Doppler indicates entry into the atmosphere.
Navigation is also confirming that we can see a little bit of that slowdown of the atmosphere on the Perseverance entry capsule. Our current velocity is about 5.36 kilometers per second and an altitude of about 67 kilometers from the surface.
We are probably seeing MRO plasma blackout at this point.
Bank 1 completed.
MRO has lost log.
Doppler indicate reversal, bank reversal.
We have indications that Perseverance is now performing bank reversals in the atmosphere. These are the steps in order to control its
max
distance
10 Gs
to the landing target. Perseverance has just passed through the point of maximum deceleration and has indicated that it felt approximately 10 Earth Gs of deceleration.
MRO has lock again.
Doppler indicate reversal.
Bank 2 complete.
We saw a small outage of the UHF telemetry from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter during that peak heating phase, likely caused by the plasma blackout. Perseverance is still continuing to perform bank reversals in the atmosphere to control its distance to the landing target.
Doppler indicate reversal.
End of range control, range minus 1.9 kilometers, cross range minus 2.4 kilometers.
Perseverance is going about 1 kilometer per second at an altitude of about 16 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have entered heading alignment, which means Perseverance is no longer trying to control the distance to Mars, but to the target on Mars, but instead is flying straight to the target. Our current velocity is about 550 meters per second at an altitude of about 15 kilometers from the surface.
MRO is reporting good telemetry log.
We are coming upon the
start.
We are starting the straighten up and fly right maneuver,
UBMD jettison,
where the spacecraft will jettison the entry balance masses in preparation for parachute deploy and to roll over to give the radar a better look at the ground.
Doppler indicates chute deploy.
The navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
Heat shield set.
Perseverance has now slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
Nav filter converge. Velocity solution 3.3 meters per second. Altitude 7.4 kilometers.
Now has radar lock on the ground. Current velocity is about 100 meters per second, 6.6 kilometers above the surface of Mars. Perseverance is continuing to descend on the parachute. We are coming up on the initialization of terrain relative navigation and subsequently the priming of the landing engines. Our current velocity is about 90 meters per second at an altitude of 4.2 kilometers.
OVS valid.
We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution and part of terrain relative navigation.
Priming. TBA is nominal.
We have priming of the landing engines.
Back shell set.
Is 83 meters per second at about 2.6 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation that the back shell has separated. We are currently performing the divert maneuver. Current velocity is about 75 meters per second at an altitude of about a kilometer off the surface of Mars.
TRN Safety Bravo.
We have completed our terrain relative navigation. Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars.
SDS level.
Constant velocity
104.
Constant velocity accordion, altitude air.
We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver.
We've lost direct to Earth tones.
Throttle down.
Sky crane maneuver has started. About 20 meters.
Tango Delta. Nominal.
We're getting signals from MRO.
Renew stable.
UHF is good.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the signs of past life. At this point, the descent stage has flown away to a safe distance. Perseverance is continuing to transmit direct through Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to Earth.
MRO reports they're still getting telemetry from the lander.
All right, all stations. Touchdown confirmed. We're going to wait for the images.
OL3, OL1, you have what you need?
OL3, I have what I need. Flight, we have seen the completion of EDL 3000.
Copy.
Copy activity. That is as expected.
MRO is still seeing a strong signal from the lander.
Flight, this is OL3. I am ready to share.
OL3, you are go? For those on M.
All stations stand by for the images. Yes! Woo! Flight, this is OL3. I have the target point on the map when you are ready. We are ready, OL3. Go for it.
Oh my goodness! Oh! Yikes! Oh my goodness!
Flight, I'll be moving in, showing you the safe zone that we've landed in. OL flight.
TRN. TRN.
Can we get the cliff image, OL?
Activity, this is OL. Can you repeat that request on M20 EDL off?
OL, can we get the other image? Should show the cliff.
I'm sorry, say what image again? I'm not understanding.
Flight OL3. OL3. You can see we've landed about 35 meters from the nearest rocks that we could identify from orbit by their shadows. Copy OL3, TRN in action.
Yep. Take that, Desero. Woo!
I remember this spot. It looks good. Copy OL3. I'm sure that you have seen them all and you recognize them all. So.
Flight reports Electra still in lock with the lander.
Flight, we have seen the transition to surface. EDL is done.
Woo! Woo-hoo! Transition to surface. All stations are...
MRO. Congratulations, Perseverance team, and the whole team that's not here as well. Excellent job.
All stations on M20 EDL ops, we have transitioned to surface as reported downstairs. If you are part of that story to the surface team, make sure you're starting to work those inputs, please.
Okay. Well, that was excellent. It was successful. Wonderful. We got pictures already, which is great. William, did you have any comment, remarks, or anything?
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Can you hear me right now?
Perfect, loud and clear.
Oh, great. Let me turn my video on as well. Yes, I'm extremely excited. You never know how this is going to go until it goes down, and it seems like it was a perfectly successful landing. So I'm really happy so far. It seems like it's nothing but good news so far, and we've already got pictures, which usually takes hours to get those pictures back. It happens so quickly. I thought it was interesting when they said that they were only 35 meters away from some of the rock cliffs. You know, it's so dangerous when you land on a planet. You can't see what you're going into. So they could have easily had crashed into those rocks, and they didn't. So it's something to be really, really happy for. Rocks on Mars over the past 20 years or so from different rovers that have landed there before. The rocks on Mars are really cool. If you want to check out right now, you can check out some pictures from Curiosity rover, Spirit rover. You can see a lot of the different terrain that we've already explored. But if you keep your eyes peeled to the news in the next couple of days, you'll be seeing a lot of pictures in full color and a lot of detail of all the rocks in this area. This should be one of the most spectacular sceneries from Mars that we've got. A lot of the places that we've landed on Mars before have been really flat and boring just because we want to be safe. We want to find a safe place to land. This time they deliberately chose a higher risk level so that we can get more science out of that.
Thank you. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to put the link to the Hamptons Observatory in there.
Thank you.
It's a great website if you want to check that out. Plus, they have some events listed on there that are taking place. So we thank the Hamptons Observatory for giving us East Hampton Library the opportunity to host this watch party. And I'm also going to put in there, if anyone would like to visit Canio's books. If you're ever in the Hamptons or you come out to Sag Harbor, great bookstore right there in the heart of Sag Harbor. And let me put that in there for you.
Yep, I just got to say thank you myself to Canio's books again, because they really saved me at the last minute. Because of the snowstorm today, I wasn't getting any internet connection at my house, so that they really came through, and I really, really appreciate that. And so, of course, I also appreciate East Hampton Library for organizing this, for moderating it, for doing all the hosting this, and I also have to thank the people at Hamptons Observatory who organize all these types of events and really keep us all together online and looking up at the stars. So thank you so much. And of course, thank you to NASA and JPL for all the incredible work that they do to get this done. This is so difficult, and they just do an amazing job. So it's a wonderful site to keep going to. You know, not just the landing, but keep track of what goes on in the coming days and weeks as new pictures and new discoveries come from Mars. With my little globe here, this is let me put the video on, of course. So this is a little globe of Mars. This is just about where we landed today. So there's a whole planet here. It's about as much land on Mars as there is on the whole planet Earth. So we've only landed at maybe 6 or 7 different places on Mars. There's so much to explore. There's so much to find out. So keep your eyes peeled in the coming years as we learn more about this incredible planet next door to us.
Will do, definitely. Thank you, Will, Hamptons Observatory, Canio's books, and this is Steve Spataro from the East Hampton Library, thanking everybody for zooming in today and watching this wonderful touchdown on Mars. And we'll be sure to keep you posted of other events that we're having. And wherever you are in whatever part of the world you're in, have a wonderful day. Stay safe. If you've got some snow where you are, be careful out on the roads, and we wish you all the best. Thank you.